I didn't know, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I just didn't know myself.
When would you say you did learn? When did you start investing?
When I got divorced.
Okay. Yeah.
Joni, welcome to the spending intervention.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're so glad you're here. Spoiler alert, this is my aunt, and I am so thrilled that you're here because you are my coolest aunt. Yeah, I said it.
Of course I am.
And not just because you won the lottery.
No,
Mm,
I'm
right.
sure
I
I
was
am
cool
excited.
before that.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know all the cool things about you as we talk about your spending.
And I'm not your only aunt. Let's make sure
I
they
know.
know that.
I know. I know. They all heard it.
Yeah.
You are
I know.
very cool.
Oh, yeah.
It's something to aspire to. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of the overview, some of the facts about your situation currently.
So I am 56 years old. I am divorced 3 years. I live in Michigan. So I am from the north. And I am in a season where my children, adult children, have grown and are out of the house. My youngest is in college. I have his golden doodle that I take care of, Stella. And then I just adopted another golden doodle in December. So I have Cole and Stella. So they're my at home with me. So I'm not an empty nester yet, but I am.
Nice.
And you won the
I
lottery.
won the lottery
How long ago was
a
that?
couple of years ago.
Okay.
Um,
That was after the divorce?
after the divorce, which is God's way of taking care of me. And
Which is not something everyone should bank on.
no, I didn't bank on it either.
It's
It's
not
what I
strategy.
No, it's what you can say now after the effect, right? Right.
And you're not someone who typically would
No.
gamble.
Well, I've never played Powerball. That's what I won. And so that was just a thing that I randomly did. So no, it is not something that, you would see like on my monthly expenses every month.
Not anymore, at
No,
least.
no.
Yes.
But it's strange because the thought behind the lottery, right, is you're going to win the lottery and it's going to solve everything, right? And it definitely put me in a better financial situation than I had been previously. But it also, just because of that, doesn't solve all of your problems or make
Right.
them all go away.
Right. What did winning the lottery mean to you? How did it impact you financially, would you say?
Actually, the way it impacted me financially was preparing me more for retirement. I took almost all of the money and invested it, and is hoping, to get to that. I'm 56, so I was only as we just said, only 2 years ago, I was only 54. And really, I did not have a great financial retirement plan. And this really amped that up. It's also made it a little cushion for me to do some things in life that I probably wouldn't be able to do right now, and travel and make memories, because that's more important to me than spending money on items or things.
So, for you, given all of the different facts that you just stated about yourself and kind of your awareness of what you're doing with your money, what do you want to see happen with your spending going forward? Like, what would you say are your goals?
I think one of my main goals is to be not so just, oh, I can get that. Oh, I'll maybe just taking time. And I will tell you, like, I'm really proud of you guys, because just since I've been listening to your podcast, and I have changed some things about myself.
Yay.
Not one thing, but other things I have. But it really makes you stop and think before you spend money, I think. And I think that's kind of what I really want to get out of this. And going into this season of my, being 56, I started a nonprofit. I'm getting ready to retire from the nonprofit, not retire in whole, but really paring down everything, and really, where can I save money? Where can I, instead of instead of just buying this, I could do this instead.
Mhm,
That's what I'm
mhm.
really hoping to get out of
Yeah.
this.
Cool.
So we'll be transparent with the viewers and listeners that we're not going to say how much you won in the lottery. But do you know on like a scale of like average lottery winners, was your winnings like average, lower than average?
I don't
Like
know.
no? Okay.
No. Mhm.
And what was like the one thing you splurged on after you won?
So
It doesn't have to be crazy. What just you got to do one though.
you do. I mean, you get like this. To be honest with you, I will tell you there's two things probably that I've done since I've won. Um, I've always been a giver. I think I give more now. And the second thing is I travel and I am spending time with family and friends. And that's truly, I wouldn't say it's one thing, like it's not an item. I didn't buy anything crazy. I didn't go extravagant on anything. Um, but I would think those are the two things, just things in general,
Mhm.
that it makes my heart happy. And so I did it before I won this, but this just made it a little bit easier for me to do. And I like helping other people. I always have. And so if that is another way for me to be able to do it and give back more, it just means that much more to me. That
Mhm.
means more to me than going and buying a luxury car or something.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. Well, that stood out to us in your 90-day transaction inventory.
What
Well,
else
I'd like
did
to start with some good things that we saw about it.
Yeah. And so some of the really cool things is the giving and generosity. That came up a lot, whether you were buying gifts for people or you're buying dinners out. Food is
Yes.
obviously an
So
important thing to you.
But so I wanted to kind of talk. I mean, I already knew like you didn't need to give me this because I know what I spend my money on. But I really wanted to take a moment to talk about that
Mm.
because as I was like looking it over, I was like, oh, wow, wow, food is like a thing. But food's always been a big thing in my life. And so when people are in the season that I'm in, it's a really hard transition because I've been used to cooking for my family for
Mhm.
40 years,
Mm.
and then you go from that to being an empty nester, your kids are gone, and now I'm single. And the dogs don't really compliment me when I cook for them. So I just give them the same kibble all the time.
I just got a puppy and she is so ungrateful.
Yeah.
I can't.
They'll eat the same thing over and over again. They don't care.
That part's kind of nice, honestly.
Yeah.
I wish the people in my home were like that.
So food has always been a big thing for me. And it's really hard to transition from, am I going to the grocery store and buying food to cook? Because when you do, I don't know how to cook for one. And so I'm cooking and I'm making all this food and then I have to give it away. And I really can't stand throwing away food. So that's like my biggest thing.
Mhm.
So a lot of times when you see I'll get invited to go out, that's pushing the easy button, right?
Mhm.
Yes, that is so easy to do. I'm just going to go do that instead of
Yeah.
what else?
Yeah. So you're generous though in that way. You'll
Yes.
take people out to eat
Yes.
and that is a big portion of where you'll choose to spend money. But on the good things that we saw, your spending both on groceries and on dining out was very reasonable, I would say, for someone in your situation. Across the board, you're kind of averaging 300 a month on groceries and about 300 a month on dining out, which isn't crazy when it
Mhm.
comes to kind of averages across the board. So even with the amount of times that you're going out, it's within range that there's not too much that we would say would really need to be honed in there.
Yeah, this definitely isn't like a spending on food episode. It will there are other things we can talk about.
Yeah, but I also want to highlight the investing, the fact that despite having won the lottery, you are still investing monthly
Mhm.
And a
into
very good like amount, like
Mhm.
a significant amount. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that is something that I have to tell you, I really feel like when I was growing up, investing was not talked about in my family. And so it wasn't something I learned. And it was also something I didn't pass down to my children either until recently.
Mhm.
And so even though my oldest is 33, he's now at least talking about starting that investing and that's what I did for Christmas is gave them money to invest. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
So it's
What a good
trying to
gift.
change that shift of the culture that we have in our family that I didn't know, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I just didn't know myself.
When would you say you did learn? When did you start investing?
When I got divorced.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a really common thing for women.
Mhm.
It's throughout marriage, we think that we don't need to pay attention to the finances as much, or to be thinking we're thinking so much of our children in the moment. We don't have the mental capacity to then think about retirement. And so I've heard that so many times where I didn't learn this stuff until I needed to.
Well, I was also in a situation where I wasn't allowed to. So that's a whole nother ball game. And so when you're not allowed to have access to stuff
Mm,
or access to or question things, that's a whole different mindset too. And so that's what I was coming out of. And I wasn't smart enough to invest.
was the
So
impression.
yes.
Oof.
So
Well,
And
I'm glad that you're here now.
clearly you are, because you're doing it very well.
Mhm.
So kudos on that.
Yeah, so those are some really fun things to see for us. So then to move into some of our other kind of specific observations, you already talked about it. So I think we can kind of go here. And I think a lot of our listeners will really resonate with this on the transition piece. The fact that you are in a housing transition, you're kind of still in this life transition of having adult children, in the transition of being single. So there's a lot going on that absolutely impacts finances. And some of that includes just the ways in which you're spending money. So a couple we can kind of begin to touch on is the certainly renter's insurance, but also storage units that you're paying for.
yes.
So I'm curious for your perspective on how you see this transitional time impacting your finances.
Because you're spending almost what, $200 a month on storage? Is it, or
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Between renter's
I was.
insurance and
Yes.
storage, we've
Yes.
got a total of like $367.
Yes.
Mhm.
So as we speak, I got rid of one whole storage unit, getting ready to get rid of the second storage unit. So that's that piece in that season that I talked about. Here I got divorced. Here I had, at that time, and it's a hard time for women because you're like, it feels like everything is being kind of taken from you.
Mm.
So I was trying to hold on to things like, that's mine. I want that. And when I got it and put it in the storage unit because it didn't fit in my new house, um, you'd go back and I would open it up and I'd be like, I didn't even know I had that. Like, and so it became things, right? And I've had the storage units for 3 years. I also closed a business. So part of that storage unit is things from the business that needs to be sold and gone and everything. But um when you when you go back and you start kind of getting rid of those things, whether it's giving away, selling them, um, donating them to places, it is so freeing. It is freeing. Like
Mm.
I could not wait. I can't wait to get back. I'm almost the second one's almost gone, and it's just freeing to get rid of the stuff that you just. It's just things.
Mhm.
It's just things.
So you plan to get rid of everything that's in the storage unit.
Yes. Oh,
Did
yeah.
you know that when you got the storage
No.
units? Okay.
No.
So this is a new
No.
decision.
So in the last year, I have been put on a mission. I am going to be traveling the United States with an RV. That's going to be my home. And I am starting a podcast
Okay.
and, but really pouring into women, their self worth and their value and their sole purpose. Like, just seeing you guys doing what you're doing is so awesome. And you don't understand what you guys could mean to other people who don't think they could ever do something like that.
Mhm.
And I've learned that in my season of where I'm at in my life and how important it is to, really hold those things up.
Mhm.
And so traveling in the United States in an RV was not my plan. That was God's. And we fought a lot about it because I wanted to stay at like the Marriott. And he was like, nope, you're going to get an RV. So that's not me. I'm not a camping girl. This is out of my element for sure. But I thought then I was going to just put everything, I had two storage units. I thought I'm just going to fill them up. I'll even fill them fuller than they are now. And I'll have everything when I get back. And it was, no, you're going to let it all go. And so when I go back, my kids think I live like a college frat person now because I have no couch in my living room. I have no TV in my living room. I have one chair that my friend has bought, and I've begged her to leave it at my house so I have something to sit on.
Oh, wow. You are really just pulling the rug out from under yourself
Literally,
here.
that's so true.
I didn't buy the mansion. I bought the vehicle with a bed.
Right.
Yes.
Amazing.
Have you purchased an RV
No.
yet?
So
Okay.
that is coming. I am planning on leaving in May, and my brother's going to help me do that so that we can get a really good one that he can kind of help me equip with some security things and
Mhm.
things like that and negotiate. I'm not good at that. So I need him to help me negotiate.
Do you have a budget? Do you know like what features you're looking for at different
Small.
budgets?
I just drove a 27-foot U-Haul for the first time, and I know I do not want anything that big. So I definitely am looking for enough just because I'm going to take the dogs with me. And so I need a big enough one at least to have a little room in there with them. But the budget is so crazy because I would like to pay cash for it so I don't have a monthly payment when I'm traveling. And that, so I'm looking at a used. I've looked at new, and new looks awesome,
Yeah.
but new isn't probably what I'm going to go for. So, I would say 65,000 and less is what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you looked at rates for loans in case you do end up going with a
No,
Okay, good. Okay.
no.
Committed to cash, and I like that.
I mean, that's what that's what I feel like I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Good.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us into the next thing we wanted to talk about was that we do see some loan payments, some business loans, and we wondered about those. Could you tell us about those debts, or how much debt do you currently have, and how you're paying it off?
So I started a business with my son. He went into rehab for a year. And so we had to close the business because I was not able to operate it on my own. At the time, we had a $20,000 loan. That's the loan payment that you're seeing. And then we both of us have our name on a piece of equipment. And I still have the piece of equipment. So I'm still making that payment.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to be selling that. So that's going to go away. And I only have $5,000 left on the business loan payment to pay off.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you know what the interest rate is on that loan?
I don't. I don't.
Okay. So this was a loan that was taken out then before winning the
Yes.
lottery.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Eh,
go on.
I just wanted to say that we were paying it out of the business. And this past year too has been a lot of, I don't think, my best decisions in money management because you're in a time of healing and a time of coming out of trauma. And so I had a lot happen in a shorter period amount of time. And I feel like I'm just starting to come to the surface again.
Mhm.
I think that that can't be underscored enough
Mhm.
with money management and really intensive life experiences. And even through like some of my own grief throughout life, I've noticed it has an impact on my money. And in the moment, I know it's happening
Mhm.
and I don't care.
Yeah.
Because these other things feel so much more important than, some long-term goal that I may have or my meal planning goal that I had. When you're going through something really overwhelming or, like you said, traumatic,
Mhm.
or there's loss or grief attached to it, it will affect our finances like it affects all other parts of our personhood. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Like, it's okay to have these seasons of, I know that I'm not making the best decisions and I don't have it in me to shift that, but also moving towards well being,
Mhm.
keeping the pulse on that and making the shifts when we can find that we have some footing
Mhm.
underneath us. We
Mhm.
can make some of these changes, which I'm hearing you say, like,
Yes.
I feel like I'm coming up
Yes.
out of this.
I do, and I do feel like
Mhm.
that, and I think at the time, you don't sometimes even realize that you're even making the decisions
Yeah.
you're making because everything is so heavy that it's just like, I can't even think about that. So, like, you're just on like, you're just
Yeah.
autopilot, right? And then all of a sudden, when, like, everything kind of starts to, like, calm down or you start to see out of, like, onto the horizon, you start then, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have done that," you know?
Mm.
Yeah. It is traditional like wisdom to, if you're in a place of grief or a big life change, don't make any big financial changes for a year.
Mhm.
Don't, and that includes paying things off, making big investments, taking out loans, anything like that.
Mhm.
Waiting a year is usually the reference.
Mhm.
So, absolutely. So, I will say that probably because it's a business loan, it's probably a little higher in interest
Right.
rate.
Yeah.
So compared to what you're earning in the market, especially the market that we are in currently as of recording, it could be a good move to just get it all paid
Mhm.
off now. So that might be something that you consider moving forward.
Yes.
Mhm.
So if
Yes.
the 5,000 is all, because we were looking at some car debt as well.
Yes.
You have 2 cars, correct?
Yes. So one is paid off. And then the second one is actually I'm going to be selling it back to the dealership because I'm literally not taking a car with me on the road trip. So
Mm.
I won't need it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to get rid of that also.
Okay. Do you think you'll get the money that you need to get out of the car selling it back to the
Yes.
dealership? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Great.
It just could be worth for our viewers to
Yes.
consider whether private sale or selling back to the
Yes.
dealership is going to be most advantageous. So doing the math on that
Yes.
is
Correct.
needed. I feel like it's also worth talking about. I mean, remember before you and I started talking with you on camera, about how a lot of times when people come into money, it can lead to taking out loans rather than utilizing the money that we've made, whether through the lottery or a windfall or an inheritance or something like that. That's not your situation now that we've learned that this business loan happened before the lottery winnings, but something also to pay attention to that we can see for those who are not accustomed to having a lot of money and getting it and thinking it's a really good thing to invest this money. But then because they don't want to touch it at all, they're taking out loans instead. And who knows at what level of interest rate. So that's also something to keep in mind for any one of us who might come into a little bit extra money to compare what we can earn in the market versus how much the interest rate's going to be. So
Yeah, we saw that in our book. If you read Buy What You Love Without Going Broke, our friends at Price of Avocado Toast, same thing. Our friend Justin, he got a settlement from litigation, and Kat had $600,000 and wanted to hold on to that for safekeeping. And so they ended up taking out car loans and student loans because they wanted to hold on to this money.
Mm.
And what happened was they just started spending it frivolously. So then after 3 years, the $600,000 was gone and they had hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt.
Ugh.
So this is something that is not unique.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the kids.
Yeah.
How old are your children? My cousins.
Because you said you're boarding your son's dog
Yes.
in
Yes.
in
Mhm.
addition to your own
Yes.
dog. So
Yes.
tell us about your kids.
So my oldest is 33. Just moved to Nashville for a restart. My daughter is 30, lives in Nashville. They're actually now living together. And then my youngest son is 19. He's in college.
All right.
So they're all out of the house Pretty much.
Yeah, you wouldn't tell that by my spending, would you?
Well, I think that a lot of people will relate to this who have adult children. I'm seeing that there is some phone payments, some of course dinners out, there is storage, there's boarding of the dog. So tell us about
Whose dog is it? The
Well,
night
it's really mine.
Isn't it always? But
the mom always is the one
there's
taking
a
care of
big
it.
gap though between the 19-year-old and then the 30 and 33.
Right.
So we can talk about those children differently.
Can we? Can we really?
I think we can have more empathy with more support for the
Yes.
19-year-old
Yes.
in college
Yes.
than we can for the 30 and 33-year-olds.
So I think that one thing that I have done even before I was doing this with you guys is I am such an empath that I don't like to see my kids like suffering, right?
Yeah.
It's really not suffering. Well, let's be honest. But
Inconvenience.
yes, inconvenienced. And what I think I've learned is, and this is where I'm going on this road trip, right? I'm starting a whole new chapter, a whole new season, and I can't continue to pay for the things that I have paid for or help them along the way like I have. And they all know that now.
Mm.
And so it's like, mama's coming to an, this is all coming to an end. And actually, I should have done it a long time ago because I think back to when I was their age, my dad didn't like, he did help me when I was in like college age. I didn't go to college, but college age. But beyond that, it was not, I did not get things just given to me. And so I feel like that's the piece that they got to go through the struggle, right? And feel the pain to get to the next part. And that's not that they're going to be struggling, but I mean,
I think that's a reality for all parents, right? Because you are accustomed to providing for them. You're accustomed to being the one responsible for all of their needs. And that transition doesn't always happen super smoothly as they get into adulthood of what am I paying for? What am I not paying for? How do I even assess what is good and right here? And I would imagine especially difficult to discern when you do have some means or at least the appearance of means, right? That
Right.
could be hard for a child.
right.
And I don't know what they're saying to you, like, Mom, you
Oh,
won
yeah.
the lottery.
Oh, yeah.
Why aren't you buying me a house?
Yeah. How has that changed the relationship or the dynamics like since the lottery win?
I think at first, I did do one thing. There was one thing I did do. So Luke was a senior in high school when I won. And we were going to drive to his senior trip down in Hilton Head. And I did we flew. I bought plane tickets. That's right. I was like, we're flying now.
Wow. I thought you were discerning with your money. Now that we have all the facts.
Right. Now that I'm sorry, I cut that from you. But really, my kids don't expect. That's never been there. I mean, I have a great relationship with my children, but it's more my own internal thing that I have to deal with. It is not them demanding, you pay for this, you do this, blah, blah, blah. And it's just me. It's something I have to have boundaries, which Jill has taught me about boundaries. But they're good. And it's not a bad word to have. And I think so many people hear that word and they think bad, and it's not. But it's having the boundary then, and then it's reteaching, right? Because now I've created this. Now I have to create a new a new level of this is the new reality that we're going to live in. And I have to create that and have those boundaries now going
Can't
forward.
just flip the switch.
Right.
But with that, it is also important to be planning for what you do want to give to your kids,
Mhm.
right? There's a difference between like, am I really going to be paying all of their cell phone bills? But also, I want to leave them something.
Right.
So I think that I'm curious if you've explored estate planning, kind of how you're thinking about future giving to your
Mhm.
kids.
So, and my investments are for like if something were to happen to me, that would be to them. That they would split that. And then yes, so like when I get back from this road trip that I'm going on, this mission, I'm calling it a mission trip now.
Yes, if that makes you feel better.
It does.
We always need to justify the things we do for ourselves.
But then when I gonna settle, where I'm gonna buy a house and where, then yes, there will be estate planning that will come into that. And it's gonna look different than it looks right now too. But that is a big thing to think about too. How much are you giving to your kids right now? And then how much, and my girlfriend and I have talked about this, and it's like I didn't get left. I did not, both my mom died when I was in high school. My dad passed away probably now 10, 12 years ago. We weren't given any type of inheritance or money passed down or anything like
Mhm.
that. And so, I want to be able to travel, enjoy, I want to be able to travel to see them. I want to be able to do that for the long haul. So, I mean, that becomes then, how much are you spending out of this investments that you have
Yeah.
and how much are you going to leave them?
How are you considering that? I think that this could be a fruitful conversation, especially for those who are nearing or in retirement stage of how much can I draw out of some of these investments to be able to just pay for some of the things I enjoy now? How do I also make sure that there's more? And I know there's a lot of strategy to that, and we can talk to a financial advisor about that. But from your perspective, what's informing you? How are you approaching that?
I feel like I am I do have financial advice from a financial advisor that I meet with regularly about my investments. And it's kind of like I think you guys talked about it in your book. It's about, compounding, right? So if you're investing younger, I mean, and leaving it there, right? It's compounding. And that's really what I'm trying to do right now. Yes, I am going to be at the age very shortly here where I could start drawing out of that investment on a yearly to take it out
Mhm.
to live on. The longer I leave it in there, the better it's going to look, hopefully. But don't have all your eggs in one basket either, right? And so you've got different investment types, different vehicles of means to do this. I kind of had to start my life over again after this divorce, and I'm not ready to retire. I don't like that word. Um, so I feel like I can't even answer you because what I have right now, I feel like isn't the end all. I'm not done.
Mhm.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, it's important, it sounds like, to kind of keep as much in growing as
Mhm.
possible, trying to make as much still monthly on your own before needing to really
Right.
pull from that
I mean, I
bucket.
feel like I still got a good like 10 years left in me.
At least, hopefully. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Well, I love that. And I would still say to, even though your life will continue to shift in different seasons, it is still wise to have an estate plan because we are truly not promised tomorrow.
Right.
And to be unclear is to be unkind. And you don't want to be unkind to your children after your passing.
Mhm.
So a trust gives them, and because of your situation, you'll probably go with a trust versus a will, but
Mhm.
it gives clarity
Mhm.
where just having a beneficiary on a brokerage account does not.
Yes.
The trust is giving more clarity.
Yes.
So nobody has to question what you want after your passing,
Mhm.
and you can always change it.
Now you're assuming I'm giving it all to my kids, right? Because there are two dogs that are.
And you can't leave a dog as a
I know.
beneficiary.
I know.
Right? So, but that's a really important thing. People put their pets in their will.
Yeah,
And you don't get to do that if you don't have one.
right.
So it is a good thing to have. We have a will. We'll have to upgrade to a trust. So yeah, it's especially if you have real estate, you
Yes.
can put it in a trust. If you don't,
Cars.
right.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
that's up to you and your
Yes.
financial advisor which one you have, but you just never know.
No.
And you don't want to make any big decisions while you're in grief,
Mhm.
and you're going to assume your kids are going to be in grief after your passing.
Right.
So don't force them to make any big decisions.
We're all going to be in grief apparently in 10 years. At the ripe age of 66.
I mean, I got 10 good working years left in me, not 10
Yeah.
years left.
And then you got like 20 good retirement years.
I'm like, come on.
But yeah,
You're never going to stop working. Don't even kid yourself.
know.
that would be like the next move that I make.
And that is, so I did have a trust when I was married. We had a trust,
Mhm.
and then that dissolved when the marriage ended, right? And that's been the back burner thing. Like, I need to do that again.
It always is.
yes.
Those and like power of attorney documents for like medical things.
Yes.
Those are part of estate planning. Everybody should have those. They always get put on the back burner.
Yeah. We've said my daughter is the medical person. Like, she's the one to take care of me. My boys will probably push me down the.
That is the burden of the
This
daughter.
is how we'll take care of you, Mom. We will take care of it. Okay.
You laugh, but it is the burden of the daughter. Like,
Right.
truly.
Yes.
And so that is something women financially need to prepare for.
Is to
more of a
have daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is to have a time, like the flexibility for time investment when that comes to. That's an important conversation
Man, it is.
that I love having. Well, I hate having
I was
it.
going to say, you love that?
I mean,
But what
Yes.
a gift it will be to your kids to have this conversation, because oftentimes we talk about having conversations with our parents and how that can be a difficult conversation to enter into, even for our listeners, of the adult children needing to broach this topic with the adult parent. And when the parent can be the one to initiate
Right.
that is a gift.
so much easier. Yes.
Yeah.
But I would like to go through and talk about what we can cut out when we are cutting off the kids.
Okay, Jen. Oh, we're cutting off the kids? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay. I thought you were going to go somewhere else.
We will get there.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. We will get there.
The warm up.
This is the warm up.
Yeah. So obviously we see like phone bills I see 3 phone bills.
So
So
2 will get cut. So it'll be down to 1.
okay.
And then obviously the storage units are cut. So that's done too.
Okay.
Yes.
Even-
Yeah, because one of them
even
it
for your
said was
son.
for your son.
Yes, one was for my son that,
Okay.
that I paid for a year.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Now that
It's
he's
done.
moved,
Yep,
it's
that's
done.
done. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Nice.
That was a freeing day. That was awesome.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Cool.
What other things do you think you'll cut out here?
I'm trying to think. Well, so the dog stuff is still going to happen because they'll be with me though. So there's boarding on here. So like if I go somewhere, I have to board them. And Cole is my new one. I just got him. He's a rescue. So that's just been since December. And I've probably traveled a lot more since then. So, that will be cut down because they'll be traveling with me. So that is a
Right.
huge expense that won't happen anymore, as far as like having to put them to pay somebody to take care of them.
Mhm.
Have you considered pet insurance for either of the pets, or at least yours?
No,
Okay.
I'm not going to say it because then I'm just going to jinx myself. So I'm not going to say it.
It's just no.
I had a golden retriever, Rudy,
Mhm.
that if he was alive, he'd be in my will for sure. But he was a dog that we always said we should have gotten pet insurance for him because he was sick all the time, like all the time. And so I don't want to say it, but yes, I mean, I do know it's available, and I know that it could be very worthwhile to have.
I don't think we have had more people call in for their bill of the week than those people calling in saying, I am so thankful I had pet insurance because my pet just had an $8,000 vet bill I
Mhm.
did not have to pay.
Mhm.
I think that is the number one bill, maybe
People
besides
don't
debt
mind
pay up,
paying.
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
people don't mind paying.
Yeah.
And it's very affordable. And when you get it when your dog is young, then it is even more
Yeah.
affordable.
I think with traveling, that is one thing that's on my like radar that I think I'm going to get, just because we're going to be in different environments and different places all the time, that there's a more likelihood that they could get into something could happen to them, more so than
Mhm.
just being at my house.
Yeah.
Now, do you think you will make your son pay for the one dog's pet insurance because it is technically his?
Um, technically, no. I don't know. I would think that depends on where he is with income. So he's a college student. He is working. He works on school campus right now.
Mhm.
He does have an internship for the summer that he's going to get paid for. And I want to back this up, because when he worked last summer also, he did pay his phone bill last summer. So,
And he did
Nice.
willingly adopt a dog. Like, he didn't accidentally adopt a dog or end up with a dog, correct? Like, he willingly went into
he
this.
did. Yes. So
Yeah.
he was in a senior in high school. It also is when I was going through my divorce.
Mhm.
So I feel like it was like
Mm.
another thing, like another trauma, right? Holding on to something. Um, I don't know. She's like mine, so that's
Mhm.
a toss-up one.
Mhm.
Definitely. I mean, a conversation to
Right.
have.
Right.
For sure. Because that will be a dividing, like, if it's your son's dog and you pay for everything,
Right.
whose dog is it? Who gets to make the decisions about the dog? It could be a source of tension down
Right.
the road.
And will he eventually get the dog
He
when
will.
he's in his
Yes.
own
And we've already
place?
talked about that.
Interesting.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that what you said is important to say, because it could be a source of tension, but I think that if you can communicate, we have a pretty much open communication. I do with my children. So like
Mm.
we've already talked about, like, if he gets an apartment at school, he's probably going to take Stella. And if he does, then she's yours to take care of then. Like, it's not she gets to stay with you and I pay all the bills for her, right?
Mhm.
Because it's a source of responsibility. A dog is a huge responsibility.
Yes, it is.
It's
Yeah.
like a kid. You
Oh,
could,
look at me.
it is. You could just cage him up. That's the only difference.
Right? And you can't put children in cages.
No, you cannot.
Check.
If you cannot.
The child might crawl into the cage by their own free will.
They do.
You
They
can't.
do that, but you can't shut it.
No, you
Can't
can't.
keep them there.
You get in a lot of trouble for doing
No
something
matter
like that.
how much they want to be there.
Okay. There's one other category that happened quite a bit over the last 90 days.
How many?
Very specific amount.
How many?
too.
Tell us how many.
How many? It was more than 10. She's
Oh,
counting.
it's 100% more than 10.
19.
19.
It was only 19 in 90 days. Then I'm already cutting back. Let me go.
19 times in 90 days you spent $2.11 at Mickey D's.
But here's the thing. I'll tell you that as we get further into the 19, what started as just $2.11 gets more frequently $4.22, and then $11.19.
So I just have a
we're going
question
up.
with this. Unrelated, but how much does a fountain Diet Coke soda cost these days?
$2.07. Which really makes me angry, because it used to be $1.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
I live in the past.
and we've got a purchase right today, sitting right next to us.
So 20.
This is very on brand, but tell us about $2.11.
Tell us.
So it is definitely something about getting Diet Coke like that. It's like soothing and it's comforting and it just tastes so amazing. It's just not the same to buy. So and I've given it up for a year. I went a year without.
You did.
Yes, I did.
How were you?
I was fine.
Okay.
And then, it's like anything, you give it up and then you're like, you drink one. And I was like, oh, like I wanted it again.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna probably give it up again because it's just like I was like looking at this and you don't think because it's $2.11. What's $2.11, right? I started looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness. Like now it's habitual.
Mhm.
Now it's
Mhm.
if I'm in the car, I just think I need to have one. So it's a habit
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But it's I would not stop at a gas station to go buy a bottle
Yeah.
of
I was
Diet
going
Coke.
to ask you
No,
about that because you
no,
could just get
no,
cans or a bottle,
no, it's not the
but
same.
this is
I've
But
also
when you get
fountain
the
soda.
fountain at the gas station, is
Mm,
it just fountain or is it just
it's
McDonald's?
just McDonald's ones.
Okay.
And usually, like, my kids will they get so they're so, like they'll try and, like, "We're just gonna stop at, like, the gas station to get one."
Mhm.
And I'll be like, "It just doesn't taste the same."
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And people say
even the
that. I've
little
seen
mini
those
so the little
reels.
mini one so, you try and, like, trick yourself. So, like, I'm just gonna buy little mini ones, and it doesn't taste the same. It doesn't taste the same.
Right.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not gonna get this, I'm just not gonna drink it at all then.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of where I'm gonna
It
be
is
at.
very on brand for you. I remember even when I was little,
Oh, yeah.
Aunt Joni had a Diet Coke. That is the drink of choice. And now, to be fair, it is far less expensive than getting coffee out. I think a
Yes.
lot of people, like, you'll drink a Diet Coke in the morning. Like, you're not
Well,
coffee.
I
You're,
do drink coffee at home. I
uh,
do not go through and buy, the foo-foo coffees. I don't do that.
Mhm.
In fact, on here, it was kind of funny when I was looking, we have a coffee place up by me called Scooters,
uh-huh.
which
We have them down here now too.
okay, do you? And so there was a Scooters on here. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I had to think what that was. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, Scooters. I'm like, I don't think I ever went to a place called Scooters.
Right.
And then oh, yes, it was an afternoon. And I was like, I'm going to have a coffee. Like, that was a special treat.
Yeah.
Right.
And once in 90 days is how, in
Yeah.
fact, it's probably been once in about 8 months that I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this isn't breaking the bank, certainly,
No.
but it does kind of lead to potential further spending. So, for instance, it did increase a couple of times. I think you said you were purchasing that for a friend
So, yep,
then.
yep.
But it also makes me wonder at what other times are you out getting a Diet Coke and now you're right by this other place and we're gonna maybe stay out longer, or it's gonna lead to another type of purchase. And so that's where we kind of want to be looking
Mm.
at the habitual, as you called
Mhm.
it, spending, and what other types of spending ends up being attached to that. Because even if 211 is affordable, eventually every single day 211, and then additional spending on top of the 211, even for a lottery winner.
It's not good.
And honestly, it's not the 211 that like gets me. What gets me is the aspartame in the Diet Coke and how toxic it is to your kidneys and liver. And so
Wow.
We're not doing a health show.
I know I'm not a health expert. And so take what I say with a grain of salt. But studies may suggest that aspartame is not
Yes.
good for your kidneys or liver.
Who knew that the spiciest thing that we would be talking about in this show is the Diet Coke? I knew. I'm like, tread lightly. Tread lightly. Here's the thing, though. We don't want deprivation.
Right.
And I hear that you did give it up for a year. You were fine. You survived. You're here to tell the story. But I think it is worth, when we see some of these things that are just habitual, what can we replace it with? Because you called it habitual, but you also called it a version of a coping mechanism. Like, it's soothing
Mhm.
to you. And that's important, to have something that is comforting, that you look forward to, that is hopefully low cost, easily accessible. And so I think it's worth thinking through, if we are going to give up the Diet Coke, not just a straight no, but where's the but?
Mhm.
Like, let's do the but
Mhm.
trick on this. The no, but this.
Mhm.
Is there anything like that for you? Like, if you were to think, I want something soothing, I want something refreshing, and it might not even be edible, like, what could be an alternative?
Unsweetened iced tea is for me.
Okay.
It's just not at the level But
Right.
definitely when I did it before, that's what I replaced it with was
Well, yeah, it
unsweetened
doesn't
iced
have
tea.
caffeine or aspartame,
Right.
so it doesn't provide the same dopamine
Right.
hit.
Tea might, but not
Well,
not nearly as
yeah,
as
right,
much.
but it could be, yeah, definitely a better
Right.
alternative
Yes.
for sure.
Is that
Yes.
something you're able to make at home? Do you make your own, or do you have a specific, only this place makes
No,
it good?
I could make my own.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And being on the road, it's probably going to be easier to make that because you don't have to keep it cold, right? It's unsweetened iced tea. So it's just, I mean, you could add ice and just add it in. So it might
Right.
be easier for me to have as a drink of choice rather than, trying to pull my RV through every McDonald's. Although I did think that might be a really cool, like, thing to follow.
Blowing the army. I don't think you'd make it. The clearance isn't high
Yeah.
enough.
I don't know.
Gotta just send the dog through on a little remote control vehicle. Teach the dog how to order for
Yeah.
you.
And if you give up the aspartame, think about how much money you'll save on potential kidney and liver disease.
Mhm. So as we wrap up, I
She's
do
really
think
trying to go there.
something.
I
Yes.
know, I mean,
This is why I'm in the middle to protect the guests from Jen.
I'm not, I mean, $2.11 doesn't worry me.
No.
Yeah. I do think that it's worth considering now and keeping a pulse on some of these different spending things as you do enter into a new lifestyle. I think it can be easy for us to think, well, those expenses aren't going to be there anymore. The car's being sold, business loans gone. I'm not paying renter's insurance, no more storage units. That's all done. And here we go into this new lifestyle. We don't have those expenses anymore. But thinking about what are the expenses I'm going to be taking on? I'm going to be transient. So there's probably going to be a lot more dinners out. Where am I going to be parking? What are the costs of that? When I visit people, what's that going to look like? What kind of expenses am I going to take on? How will I continue to show generosity while also like living within my own means?
I think the food aspect for me is this is going to be a really good thing for me because not only the food, it's eating out, but for me right now, where I am, it's a social thing too, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, oh, we're going to go grab dinner. Oh, we're going to go grab lunch. That's not going to be so much. It's not so social when you go by yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can go eat at a restaurant by myself, but it's not as fun. It's not as social. It's not as like I'm using it as a twofold entertainment and getting something to eat. So
Right.
I feel like my goal for this next venture is how creative can I be with feeding myself
Mm,
and not having to go to like it's $2.11, but I'm also not buying my dinner there every
mhm,
night, right?
mhm,
Because
mhm.
it doesn't appeal to me. And so I'm looking at it as how creative can I be on the road and
Mm.
how can I feed myself and not break the bank? Because yes, I mean, if you don't cook and you're on the road, you're going to be eating out then all the
Yeah.
time, and
Yeah.
that's going to get really old too,
Yeah.
right? So
I'll keep following the Frugal Friends
I'm going
for
to.
tips on how to be creative and still have
But
fun.
I think we can wrap up maybe with a few tips on cooking for one
One.
person. Because I
Yeah.
think that's a thing that a lot, like half of our listeners do not have kids. They are single. So this is something a lot of people want to know.
I think, first of all, there was a Sam's Club membership on here. You probably are already thinking about this, but definitely something that was probably needed when you had 3 kids in the house. Probably not something that's
Correct.
needed without them in the house.
Especially if you're living
Certainly
in
not
our-
needed when you're living in your RV. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You're not going to have room for 52 cans of crushed tomatoes.
Nope.
No, sir, no
Heavy. Too heavy.
Yes. Yes. No, it's true because like I buy dog food there, like, and I'll buy my paper towels,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm going to get rid of.
Correct.
So, I mean, yeah,
Mm.
I'm not going to need that. So I didn't even think about that, but that would be another expense that would go away for sure.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But so something we like is so most recipes are like for 4 servings, and you may not want to eat something for 4 servings. So something that we like to do is, I mean, my family of 4, I'll double something and freeze half of it, but you won't have to double it. You could use, and you won't have a lot of freezer space, but this is something you can do once a week. So you can have something and then the next month have it again and not feel like you're eating the same thing over and over.
I also ChatGPT or your own math skills can help in cutting a recipe down. Like
Not
some
my math
people will
skills.
will double it, but you can also
Yeah.
half a recipe
So
too.
Yeah,
And
ChatGPT
ChatGPT?
is so good
Well,
for
we
that.
just talked. So we just talked about this. So I want to hear your answer to this because
Uh-oh.
I just had this conversation with someone who's another single person, and we were talking about cutting a recipe in half. I said, "So what do you do when the recipe calls for a can
Huh?
of like garbanzo beans?
Yeah.
They don't sell it like a small can, or sometimes even if you buy the smaller thing, it costs just as much as buying the bigger
Right,
size, right?"
sure. Yeah. There are certain things that I will freeze. So I'll freeze coconut milk, I'll freeze tomato paste, really nearly anything. Specifically garbanzo beans, I think you could find another quick recipe to do with them while you're cooking the food that has
Yeah.
that. So like making toasted garbanzo beans that'll eventually go on a salad later on in the week or a part of a quinoa bowl that you make. So I think that there are ways to be able to use the other half of the can either immediately or freeze it.
Yeah.
You're a unique situation because you're
Right.
not going to have a ton of
Right.
freezer space.
So that's why I think
But
using it immediately, just finding
Mm,
two
They
recipes
have
for
the
the
same
week.
ingredients.
Yeah. And but are spiced differently
Mhm.
or set up differently. One's over rice, one's a salad.
yeah, or that's the one you make the full recipe of, and then you can utilize the leftovers in a creative way or freeze the leftovers. There's also a ton of recipes online for one serving. So
Mhm.
being able to take advantage of that. I think somebody on our Facebook group recently said that they love a meal in a bowl. She actually has a recipe for the type of meal that
Meal
she can
in a
make, or
bowl.
a mug.
Okay.
She like
Meal in a
makes
mug.
yeah, exactly.
I
And
like
so it's
that.
this kind of like, here's your protein, here's your base, here's your starch or carb, and how you put it all together. You choose the ingredients that you put into it. And she says for her as a single person, that's a big go
Mhm.
to. So, really could work for you if you only have space for one
Right.
mug.
Well, the other thing too is, and I don't know if this is an age thing, but my friends and I just started like traveling together.
Mhm.
And so I'm a single woman, she's a single woman. And it's like when we go to eat something, at first we would order our own meals.
Mhm.
And then finally I was like, "Do you want to just split something?" And she's like, "Well, I was going to ask you that, but I thought it might be weird." So like that's my
Mhm.
season that I'm in. Like
Yeah.
we never had to do that. So is that weird to you guys, or do you guys like
If
is
you've
that
got a close
okay?
enough friend
Oh,
to
it
do
doesn't even
that with,
it doesn't
like,
have to be close. You just ask, would you want to split something? If they say no, it's a no. If
Right.
they say
Mhm.
yes, you've both saved money.
Right. Right.
right. A
Because
lot of times it's such huge portions. So
That's the
it's,
whole
yeah.
thing. I mean, some of these things you get at a restaurant now, there is no way you're finishing it all, right?
yeah.
And I think too, takeout is not always the worst option, or pre-prepared meals can sometimes be even less than takeout.
Mhm.
So I think even for a single person, when you've got a busy week happening, being able to go to the grocery store or even a nice local market that is selling pre-prepared single serving meals can be a really great option. Usually you can find them between $5 to $7. That's way better than going out
Right.
to eat. It's sometimes even better than takeout for sure. And then also having your list of your favorite takeout spots where you know that if you order this thing, the portion's going to be big enough for you for dinner and lunch the next day.
Mhm.
That's not the worst thing if it's only one person
Mhm.
eating.
Yeah.
Mm. Yes. All right. So let's wrap
Recap.
up, recap on the ways that we're going to improve our spending.
And like you said from the beginning, just wanting to be more mindful. So these are the things that we think can help in that.
Yeah. So, first is really creating those financial boundaries, like you've created emotional boundaries, like Jill's been helping you with, is really setting some of those physical financial boundaries between you and your adult children.
Mhm.
And I think, like we just talked about, being able to figure out creative, fun ways to feed yourself as a single person on the road.
Yes.
Also continuing to invest. And I think that's a beautiful thing, even though you came upon a chunk of money and you invested the majority of that, the fact that you're still also investing is a great thing to kind of keep focusing on. And I think important for all of our listeners to hear that even if you come upon a windfall and you invest all of that money, that doesn't mean that you have to stop there.
Mhm. And we won't dive too far into this, but I think it's also smart that every year we go in to where our investments are held, that we have the financial power there, not just the financial advisor. We make sure, are my investments tracking with the S&P 500? Am I above or below it? Am I tracking near it?
Mhm.
Because if I'm below it,
Mhm.
it makes sense to go elsewhere.
Yes.
Are the fees eating up so much of my investments that I'm not tracking with the rest of the stock market? So making sure that our financial advisor is working in our best interest,
Mhm.
like a fiduciary should, and that they're investing bare minimum of what the stock market
Mhm.
in full is doing. So that, and then reevaluating maybe some of our renters'
Mhm.
insurance, depending on, I don't know if you're going to keep the rental while you're in the RV or you're letting that lapse.
No,
Okay.
that will go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
My TV subscriptions are going away. I know.
Amazing. Yes.
Like you said, I mean, realistically, yes, there will be other things that will come into play, but hopefully that it won't be on such a monthly basis like
Well,
this.
we'll be excited to track your journey. And as you have your own platform up, we'll be sure to link so other people can follow along with you, listen to
Awesome.
the podcast that you start. So that'll be in the link in the description. This
Awesome.
is such a vulnerable thing to do. And I so appreciate
Oh,
you
you guys
being
made
here
it
and
so
sharing.
easy. So easy. You really did.
And we
Good.
only attacked one part of your person.
Well, you did. Jill knew better.
You know. It's nice knowing you.
I'm not going to soften myself for video.
Remember when I said I was taking you to dinner tonight? I'm not.